The New Tech Times, a video magazine for the electronic age. In this edition, Coleco's Atom, the cheap computer that's hard to find. Also, Kodak switches to home video with the 8mm camcorder. Later, a look at low-tech word processing from Peter McWilliams and the new robot invasion from Japan. All this and more on this edition of the New Tech Times.
The New Tech Times is brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change. Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry, CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, Electronic Industries Association.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Johnson. You and I have a lot of fun with consumer electronics on these weekly get-togethers. We sometimes forget that consumer electronics is also a business, big business. The industry's trade association, the Electronic Industry Association, is projecting revenues of $25 billion this year. That's about what the entire federal government was taking in during World War II. How do the manufacturers and distributors keep up with what's going on? They have a little gathering twice a year called the Consumer Electronics Show. There are no consumers, no show, but there were over 16 acres of black boxes with chrome trim and 85,000 people. The last convention in Las Vegas. As a consumer, you couldn't get in. So we went for you and brought back a number of reports from behind the scenes. Our first is an update on the long-awaited Atom computer.
June 5th, 1983. A company gives birth to its first home computer. Coleco Industries, the makers of dolls, wading pools, and video cartridges, was moving into more than fun and games. There was a lot of promotion of the new Atom computer at places like the Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago. But customers could not find Atom on the computer store shelf. The company was planning distribution by the end of August. A few bugs had to be worked out of Atom's components. The president of Coleco promised that his $600 computer system would be worth the wait.
The three key words in understanding Atom are complete, useful, and simple. Atom comes with everything in the box that you need: a storage and drive system, the keyboard, an 80K computer, the printer, all the software you need. It's useful. It not only plays exciting games, but it also creates a second long-needed use for the computer, namely the ability to get involved in word processing at home.
Along came November. Atom was at the Electronic Fun Expo in New York City. He gained a lot of attention, but he still was not available for the buying public. Coleco finally turned out some units around Christmas time, but Atom's bugs were apparently not ready to leave. Many early systems failed to live up to expectations, but consumers were still trying to buy. Orders for the new computer went into a heavy backlog. Potential customers were buying the sizzle, but they were waiting for the steak. During January, Atom returned to the limelight. This time he was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas with a resolution to do better in 1984. The whole dilemma attracted the interest of one Nicholas Johnson, who was there to ask about the future of Atom.
When you first proposed Atom, everybody was very excited about it. And then came August, September, October, November, December, still no Atom. What happened?
Everyone still wants to touch it, and everyone still wants it, and I think that's a key element. The excitement hasn't dwindled. In fact, the demand has built since the time that we first have shown the product. The key was that we realized as we were prepared to launch the product, and as we prepared to launch it on the schedule we had initially perceived, that there was nothing competitive in the marketplace, and that it would be to our best advantage to spend the time in making sure that every attribute, every component, every program was of the highest quality that we were possible to achieve. So we decided to take additional time before it went to market to do additional consumer testing, do additional life testing, do additional software testing to make sure that when we did ship the product that it was absolutely the best possible product that we were able to ship.
Well, Mr. Kahn, you may think it's being well received, but the reports I get are that as many as 30 or 40% are being returned by customers whose machines are broken or otherwise defective. Even the Wall Street Journal, we got a hold of one, and they had a printer they said sort of warbled when they tried to print with it. There's some reports that maybe you're underpricing this, that you ought to put a little more money into the components.
We feel very comfortably that we're running well under industry standards, which is under 10%. The key thing was that the initial couple, and I think that's a key element, the first few which were shipped did have some initial software problems. We didn't deny that at that time.
Hardware problems as well.
Well, sometimes a software problem though can appear to be a hardware problem. You know, and I think it was possible that some of them initially may have had some little manufacturing hiccups in some of the hardware pieces. But those were very few of the initial shipments. Unfortunately for us, a lot of those first few were the ones that were picked up by some of the reviewers and some of the press.
Can you give me a prediction as to when my daughter, who's had one on order since last September, could expect to have it delivered?
I think she can expect it in the first quarter easily. We are in high volume production and those things are going out, and I think you'll be able to get them very readily in the first quarter.
These new tech times are topsy-turvy for fledgling computer companies. Coleco is like many firms, spending a lot of money on promotion. That's because volume sales are necessary to pay the high cost of developing a new product. Adam has put a 52-year-old company into the uncomfortable position of having to worry about huge debts to some major banks. People at Coleco say there's no way they'll go bankrupt. They enjoyed huge success with their Cabbage Patch dolls. The question is, will Adam bring the same results, or will he, like the dolls, soon be put up for adoption?
The Adam story illustrates as well as any the consumer's dilemma in the jungle called a marketplace. Does a hyped product even exist? When can we get it? Will it work? Can it be replaced or repaired? Is the company going bankrupt? Well, if the New Tech Times can ever get a hold of an Adam to review, you can bet we'll tell you about it. Meanwhile, a little caution may be in order. Check your library for product reviews, and know that as time goes by, more potential competitors for the Adam are also available. Well, after talking to Adam's executives, I walked across one of the immense exhibit halls to find out about another crowd stopper at the show, the new Kodak 8mm video camera.
Video cameras. There are many different kinds from a host of Japanese companies competing to help all of us record our lives on half-inch videotape. 10% of the families in the United States have video recorders, so competition is keen among the Japanese to produce the most portable, least expensive model. Consumers have a hard time recognizing all the names of the video companies because new products are constantly being introduced to the marketplace. But there was one logo at the Consumer Electronics Show which caught our eye and the eye of host Nicholas Johnson. He wanted to look at Kodak's new 8mm camera. It's not one of those portable film cameras, it's 8mm videotape.
We're telling the consumer is we are offering them a new technology in terms of the tapes, the 8mm technology. We're also offering them a considerably more portable camcorder. As you can see, this does not have cords hanging to any heavy device strapped to your side. This is a very self-contained, standalone unit, weighs less than 5 pounds, as opposed to many of the half-inch systems today that have cameras and recorders that weigh double that.
Kodak is making a major shift in its product line. The company's trying to come out of some tough fiscal years. Video's replacing much of the market for film. So Kodak's trying to make the transition through Kodavision.
It'll be 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and 90 minutes. All the same thickness. Yes.
To purchase a Kodak video system, you'll have to pay up to $2,400. The unit should be available to consumers by midsummer. There's a question as to whether people will pay the price of the Kodak camcorder. Many half-inch video systems cost considerably less.
You are not looking at the total advantage, if you look at price alone, of the system. The system and the value of the system, of course, is instantaneous capture of the image or the event and instantaneous playback. You simply place the camcorder in the inside of the cradle, and then the information on the videotape is transferred from the videotape and through signals is made available on your television screen.
Some people may be interested in the Kodak unit because Kodak is from the United States. But if customers purchase out of patriotism, they may be disappointed. Kodak's tape system is made in Japan.
We are in a worldwide manufacturing and marketing arena today. It's nice to be able to take advantage of those attributes of any company, regardless of where they are in the world, that can produce a product that's going to be better for the consumer.
The move to smaller size videotape could mean a compromise in picture quality. Kodak's demonstrations show a fairly good image, but the rule of thumb with videotape is the larger the tape, the better the quality. So what happens when people want to look at the family recordings 10 to 15 years from now? Will people have a good look at the times of their lives?
At this point, I could not guarantee, simply for the reason that I wouldn't know how those videotapes were going to be stored, how they were going to be created in the first place, and what would be required in the family usage of those tapes at a later date.
Prices on traditional video cameras have been moving down in recent years. Should consumers wait for a better deal from Kodak?
We would hope that as the consumer begins using the 8mm system and it becomes more predominant in the marketplace, that the cost would go down. However, you could wait and never have that unit to use to capture the pictures of that 1-year-old child, but are you going to wait until it gets to be 4 or 5-year-old until the cost comes down, or do you want the pictures now or for that particular event now?
Kodak has the distinction of having been offered and turned down the early development of the Xerox process, the Polaroid camera, and videotape. Seems determined not to miss out this time. And if you have $2,400 of discretionary income lying around and are attracted to the idea, you'll probably want to look them over. But Kodak and all the other companies who are entering this 8mm arena may be taking a big gamble. Kodak has built a reputation for quality, but it may not be enough to lure many folks away from the home video half-inch format. These are the video cassette recorders that have the movie industry up in arms, the ones behind the Supreme Court's Betamax decision earlier this year. What are the pros and cons of home taping? What's coming? Well, here to discuss the issues with us is an executive from Warner Brothers, Tim Boggs. Hi, Tim. Welcome to the New Tech Times. Why don't we begin by your reminding us what it was the Supreme Court decided in that Betamax case?
Well, the Supreme Court gave actually a pretty narrow ruling in the Supreme Court case. All that they ruled was that the 1976 law, as written by Congress at that time, does not provide a royalty or a copyright liability for the home taper or the manufacturer who sells the machine.
So we can feel comfortable recording off the air with our home video recorders.
The law of the land at the moment is that that's proper, yes.
What is this copyright about? I think many people look upon it as just one more example of large corporations ripping them off, charging them more than they ought to have to pay for what they're getting. How did this ever begin anyway? What is its purpose?
Well, the Article 1, Section 8, I believe it is, of the Constitution provides that Congress may create a copyright statute. Copyright came into existence, frankly, at the time of the printing press. It was a recognition on the part of the governments of the times that no longer were the Medicis and the Crown Prince families around to fund the arts, and with the possibility of people making multiple copies of written works, there was a need to recognize that the artist, the writer, needed to be compensated for the copying of his work. So the law was created and has been changed from time to time since then to recognize new technology. Think of the printing press as the first technological change. The copyright law was changed in this country at the time of the jukebox was invented, at the time the phonorecord was invented, at the time computer software was invented. What Warner Communications and other companies are asking now is that Congress recognize that if the copyright law is to remain vital and alive and in touch with the times, it has to change with the new technology of home taping.
But aren't there those who would argue that perhaps it is you who ought to change with the times, that the entertainment industry fought the notion of recording. They then fought the notion of recordings being played on radio. The motion picture industry, after all, had a rather adverse economic impact on vaudeville. You fought the coming of television. You fought the coming of cable television. Now you're fighting videotape recorders. Some would say, why don't you just get with it and go with it and make a profit out of it that's fair and not try to stifle all this new technology?
Well, I think people who suggest that are confused. We're not trying to stifle new technology. Warner Communications is one company that's part and parcel of new technology. We're happy to have people watch our movies and listen to our records and tapes on the finest machines possible. Some of the machinery that you've talked about in this show is quite exciting and important new developments, some of which we would like to use ourselves as consumers. The only criteria, however, that we have to live with is that the creative person, the person who makes that movie, that brings that machine to life, has to be compensated for its use, or otherwise we won't have new movies.
Well, but that's what the creative people argue. The Screen Actors Guild, the Directors Guild, others in Hollywood are arguing that with the new technologies, they are not in fact being compensated by you for their work.
I think you're wrong there, actually. The Screenwriters Guild and the Actors Guild are very much part of our legislative effort to convince Congress that there should be a change. And they realize that their paychecks come from those copyright royalties.
What are you now proposing? You've lost in the Supreme Court. You don't give up easily, I know that. What can the consumer expect from you legislatively?
Well, what we're trying to do is to convince the consumer and their members of Congress that there is a modest but legitimate need to recognize that when a copy of a copyrighted work, a motion picture or a record album is made, that there has to be some compensation paid to the creative parties who made that.
All right, how much?
I don't know, and it's really going to be a judgment that Congress will make as to how much it will be.
I've heard estimates, though, that you're going to be asking for as much as $10 per videotape recorder, $1 per video cassette. Now, that's not far off, is it?
I think it's not unrealistic to expect that if we were able to convince Congress to create a royalty on machines or the blank tape, a royalty which would go into a pool that would be divided among all of the creative parties in the creation of a film or a record, that the royalty would be somewhere in that ballpark, yes.
All right. Now, if you're talking about those kind of numbers, and there are estimates that we're going to have video cassette recorders around as plentifully as television sets, the average person is buying 8 or 10 video cassettes for each recorder now. You're talking about $800 million in copyright royalties off those machines. You're talking about another $800 million off the cassettes. That's $1.6 billion a year. Don't you think that's a little hefty?
I doubt that we'll ever see a royalty pool of those dimensions. The public seems to want and demand that Hollywood give it movies that are expensive, and most of them, 6 out of 10, do not recoup their expenses. So and the American public knows that they can't get something for free. They're not, all of us are used to being paid for our work. You get paid for your work, I get paid for my work. It's only fair that an actress or a screenwriter or the carpenter who
or a
built the
very
set,
large corporation like Warner Communications. Well,
actually,
this is going to be an ongoing story, I'm sure. Tim, I thank you very much for coming by today, and we'll be keeping an eye on it.
Thanks for having me.
If you have story ideas or comments, send them to the New Tech Times, 821 University Avenue, Madison, Wisconsin, 53706. Or just call the source or CompuServe.
One thing you can say for these New Tech Times, they're sure unpredictable. While the movie industry is worried about losing fortunes, others are planning on making them. One unlikely entrepreneur you've seen here before is Peter McWilliams, who you know is the author of books about computers and word processors. Did you know he's now ready to launch his own computer? That's right. And here it is, the McWilliams II.
Based upon the amount of money that's being made by various computer companies, I founded my own computer corporation, the McWilliams Computer Corporation. And we have come out with the McWilliams II word processor. And this is the McWilliams II word processor here. It's portable, it has no moving parts, it uses very little energy, it's not likely to be stolen, it prints characters from any known language, it's user-friendly. Well, this is the printer port here. This is made out of genuine lead, which we mine from tires automobile tires all over Los Angeles. This is wood. This is Colombian lacquer, finest Colombian lacquer mined by Juan Valdez. And this is the logo, the McWilliams II word processor logo. Very important part of the McWilliams II. Here we have RAM, which stands for reasonably amiable metal. And the RAM holds 2,000 bytes. And this is the D processor, of course. This is mined by our pink stuff miners all over America. The rumors that the pink stuff miners are getting pink lung disease is completely false, by the way. There was the McWilliams I before the McWilliams II. I just happen to have a McWilliams I right here. This is the McWilliams I word processor. This was made with ordinary chips, ordinary wooden chips. I'm the inventor of the wooden microchip. Now, the wooden microchip allowed this much information to fit into this much space. This is the McWilliams II word processor 1984 scheduling program. And I will show you how simple this is to work. You simply find the date, fill in your appointment, and it's scheduled. Very simple. Richard Nixon is our goodwill ambassador to the world, and he goes around the world spreading goodwill about the McWilliams II to people far and wide. We have celebrity endorsements, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, Marilyn Monroe. There's a whole variety of things that you can use the McWilliams II for. Let me find that section. I mean, you can use them, for example, in the kitchen. The McWilliams II is very interesting in the kitchen. You can use them for trussing up turkeys and for shish kebab and testing cakes and instead of chopsticks. And McWilliams II, by the way, can be used with computers. I didn't know if you knew that it is compatible with computers. I'll demonstrate. See, here we have a typical computer keyboard. And the McWilliams II can be used to enter information into a computer. Completely compatible. Now, you can't say that with other word processors. Well, coming up next is the McWilliams II-E. The E either stands for enhanced, expensive, or extortion. And the only way to find out about it is to buy one. And then after that is the McWilliams 3D. And the McWilliams 3D requires special glasses, like that. So you put on the special glasses and then you can process in two different colors.
Peter has an equally funny book to go with his fancy pencil. But behind the laughs, as is so often the case, there's some pretty searing and serious observations. He's warned us before not to buy a $5,000 computer to balance our checkbooks when a $5 calculator can do it better. It's sometimes easy to go crazy over electronics or other technology and not only miss the flowers and the sunsets, but deadlines as well. An IBM salesman once explained the initials stand for "it's better manually." He, like Peter McWilliams, is now selling pencils. Having said that, however, there really is some excitement out there. Like this high-tech erector set Tim and Osco found tucked away in a corner of the Consumer Electronics Show.
We all know that cars and video recorders come from Japan, but here at the Consumer Electronics Show, some of the most interesting new products have walked over. Hisashi Kojima is a 31-year-old industrial designer from Kyushu in Japan, and he's introducing his form of Tinker Toys, some unique robotic designs. These Japanese models, called Movits, each illustrate one or two principles of robotics. Some, like the Avoider, use infrared light to see objects in their path. The Memocon crawler can be programmed to perform complex motion sequences. The Circular is built around an incredibly unique mechanical movement. Each is a miniature marvel of engineering. Designer Kojima is modest about his achievements. What's your inspiration for these devices?
なぜこんなものを作るのか最初に考えた。将来ホームロボットの時代が。Felt that the times for the robot is coming up for that and for training of young kids to learn about robots was his inspiration. So we would try and get the kids to understand robotics.
Who plays with your robots in Japan?
大体10歳以上の He says about 10 years old and up, as well as adults.
Why do you think that people are attracted to these wonderful little robots?
なぜこんなものを好きかって。もう今時代がハイテク時代じゃないですかね。だからそういう環境でみんな好きじゃないですかね。Because of the times now for the high tech, everybody interested in high technology. That's one of the reasons for this.
These kits are not difficult to build. The electronics come assembled, although there are still hundreds of plastic parts, gears, and tiny nuts and bolts to deal with. A robot like the Memocon crawler takes about 4 hours to put together. But the learning experience and the sense of accomplishment when it's all over is worth the effort. Building robots has been a popular hobby in Japan for many years. If Mr. Kojima and his American sponsors are correct, it could become so here as well. Certainly, if nothing else, these little robots are just wonderful to watch and fun to play with as well. For the New Tech Times, this is Tim Onasco.
Aren't those fun? More significantly, they're serious and will soon be available to you, offering in the $25 to $75 range much of the technology of larger robots, costing 10 to 100 times as much. Well, that's just a few of the stories we checked out for you at the closed session of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Cheaper computers, smaller format home video, and miniature robot kits. We'll be back next week as we continue our journey through these New Tech Times and report on these stories.
In the next edition of the New Tech Times, the IRS. Can they use computers to keep taxpayers honest? Also a look at the first phone-in, drive-through, computerized supermarket. This and more on the next edition of the New Tech Times.
Join me then, won't you? For the New Tech Times staff, I'm Nicholas Johnson.
The New Tech Times has been brought to you through a grant from Wausau Insurance Companies. Times change, Wausau works. And by the collective voice of the consumer electronics industry, the CEG, the Consumer Electronics Group, Electronic Industries Association.
For a transcript of this program, send $3 to program number 117, The New Tech Times, 821 University Avenue, Madison, Wisconsin, 53706. Or you can now communicate electronically with the New Tech Times. Just call the source or CompuServe and select the New Tech Times online.